Greetings, beloved Princeton United Methodist Church community. It's Pastor Jenny, and today I'm reading from Psalm 137, verse 4. How could we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land? This is the word of life. Thanks be to God. This psalm is written about the Babylonian captivity, the time when the people of Israel, the Jewish people, the Hebrew people, we were conquered by the Babylonians, and the Babylonian people took the Jewish people out of their home, out of Israel, out of Jerusalem and the surrounding areas, and deported them to places where Babylon needed them, where Babylon wanted them, where Babylon could use their expertise and their strength and their artistry and all of the gifts that they have for Babylon, instead of letting them be free and independent people. And this happened not just for a year or a couple years, but it happened over a long period of time. And in fact, much of our scripture comes from this time, the Old Testament, from 2 Kings all through all the prophets, and much of the wisdom writing was written or very much shaped by the Babylonian exile period. And so we are in the midst of this series called Emerging, and we're talking about emerging from exile toward home. So we're reflecting on these stories from the Old Testament, these stories of the Babylonian exile. And this psalm is explicitly, very clearly, about exiles, people who have been removed from their home. Home has been taken away. The home that they knew was no longer in existence, or it's at the very least, not their home. And they are in this strange place, and they are immersed with grief. And they are in this place of knowing that they can't go home to the way it used to be, and yet home is still with them. It's still in them. There's something that they long for about home, and there is just no easy way or immediate way to get back to that place, either physically or spiritually or relationally, or any of those ways that we might find that we are no longer at home. So we're inviting you along this journey to discover, to think about, to remember, to recall crises in your life, events in your life that have shifted your home, your sense of home, from being what it was to something very different. And we're inviting you to look at this in particular events that happen in your life, but there's also a broader way that we acknowledge that there's a way that none of us are quite at home, and not just because of the circumstances of pandemics and all the different things that are troubling our world these days, but also because God's kingdom has not fully come. We are not fully the people that God has created us to be. So there are lots of levels at which we are not as fully at home as we might want to be, as we are called to be, as we will be at some point. So we're looking at all of these things, and this passage from Psalm 137 is a wash of a whole bunch of different emotions that come with this. They are still clearly connected to God, but they're having questions. God, where are you? What can we expect of you? What do we make of these promises? How do we sing songs of you and for you and in praise to you while we're in this different place? They're grieving. They are angry. The end of the psalm is full of anger, and anger at the people who did this to them, angry, I think, even at God, angry perhaps at themselves, angry at just the whole situation. And so this week, I invite you to just discover as you think about some of the ways that you can sense that you're not as at home as you would like to be, whether it's about an event that's happened in your life, a recent one, whether it's about the pandemic, whether it's something that happened long ago, whether it's that general sense that we are not fully in God's kingdom. How do you feel about that? How do you, when you really give yourself some space and time, how do you feel? And maybe it's even a question of how have you felt? How do you feel now? And if you were able to journal about it or talk about it, what feelings come up? Because, we're really good, actually, as people, we are very good at stuffing our feelings down. Some of us are better at that than others. Some of us let it all out. But even so, we all can can use some work around how we process, how we allow our feelings to be. I encourage you to read all of Psalm 137, in part because it is so full of emotion. And I think that few of us, especially when we are able to talk about God or our spiritual lives or these things, can get to the kind of place of anger that we see at the end of this psalm. It's kind of shocking. And it's a famous verse that talks about terrible things. And it's not an actual wish, right? It's a feeling. It's a feeling that is rising up. And sometimes we get so ashamed of the feelings that come up that we don't allow the feelings to be there. But allowing those feelings to be there is actually part of the journey home. It's actually part of the healing process that's coming. Now, this past Sunday, we had our fall kickoff, which was a great joy in so many ways. And it's also emblematic of this very thing that I'm thinking about and talking about here. We had more people in our in-person worship in our sanctuary than we've had in a year and a half. At the same time, it's different. It is not the same. For many people coming into that sanctuary, there was a sense of home. And for many, it was a fulfilling sense of home. For some, it's home, but it's not home the way they left it. Things have changed. What we can do in the sanctuary, how we exist in the sanctuary or in the church is different than it was before. And it's also true that we can't actually have all of our people, all of our family in our home and the sanctuary at the very same time. And this raises up all sorts of stuff for us. Anger, grief, confusion. I know that even as we've just been planning for our fall program year and our fall kickoff itself, even knowing how to invite people or what to say or how to manage all the different things, this place that we are of being home and not home, of being exiles in our own land, in our own space, is really hard. And it runs the gamut for many of us, and it has run the gamut for me and how I feel about all of this too. So just another invitation to invite your feelings and to do so without judgment, to just let them be, but to let yourself feel them, to let yourself experience them, and to keep breathing as you do so. I hope to see you in worship over the coming weeks, whether it is online or whether it is in person. I very much know that not all of us should or can or want to be in worship in person, and others of us do, and all these things are good. It is all there, and we are doing our best, and continue to ask you to pray for us and help us do better at meeting you where you are, at being here for you. So I wanted to shift and let you know a little bit more about our Princeton UMC partnership that I've been talking about over these past many weeks or a few weeks. Just keep giving you a little bit more information, answer a few more questions that you might have. And this week I do so in anticipation of our fall cookout, a fall gathering. What are we calling it? It used to be our fall picnic, and this year it's a fall gathering because it's a little different because of COVID and all the things, but we're also doing this with both campuses. So both campuses are invited. Kingston and Princeton will all be there, or you're all invited to be there. And we're doing lots of things to keep it as safe as possible. We ask you to do everything you can to keep yourself and do what you need to do for you and your family, but also to keep each other safe too. But okay, so back to Kingston and Princeton. So one of the things that is an ongoing process here is figuring out what this partnership really looks like. Now, some things we know, some things we're still figuring out, some things it will be an evolving process over a long time, over years, to figure out exactly what things look like. But I wanted to do this today in the context of our interns. We have 5 interns, and you're going to see them in different roles. Right now, we've kind of kept them, each of them has had close to the same role in worship over the first month or so that they're with us. But soon they're going to start rotating into more different things. You're not always going to be able to tell who's doing what, and that's okay. That's not what the point is here. The point is that each of our interns is doing some different things, and sometimes there'll be there'll be one of our interns will be at Kingston. One of our interns will be online. And 3 of our interns will be present and kind of physically with our in-person worshiping community. Each of our interns is doing another role in addition to just what they're doing in worship. So Ashley is working on adult formation, and Taylor is working on our online campus, and Alex is working in a new area that hasn't been organized. It's not new, but it hasn't been organized in a very organized way around justice. And Emma is working on our community partnerships, and Halim is working around worship. And each of those interns has a slightly different role in each campus. All of them are being sent out to both campuses, but because Princeton is bigger, because Princeton has more programming, there's going to be a heavier emphasis on Princeton. So one quick example of this is that Ashley is working on adult formation. Well, she's going to be working on adult formation across campuses for both groups. There will be things that we might do and be invited to do together, like at the same place, at the same time, getting to know each other, doing things like that. There will be other things that she will invite us and her team, the adult formation team, will be doing that will invite us to be doing at each campus the same thing, but doing it separately. There will be other things that the adult formation team will be leading us in that will be very particular to Kingston and that Princeton won't be doing. And there will be things that Princeton's invited to do that Kingston isn't. And not because we're trying to separate them, but because there are just different needs, different people, different contexts at each of our campuses. And so that's part of how, it's one tiny glimpse into some of the different ways that we are configuring and our programming and how our interns are being using their gifts and their time and their service. So that's just one piece. There'll be more, but that's what I wanted to give you today. And I look forward to continuing to share with you about all of this. Friends, remember, no matter how you're feeling, no matter how at home you feel or how far away from home, God is preparing a home for us. And God is working with us in that, and God is with us in exile, and there is a deeper home that we have with God as well. Remember that you are enough because God is enough. Thanks be to God for that.